Om Swastiastu. Selamat datang, selamat siang, and welcome to Senior Capstone presentations. Thank you all for your presence here as I share my process and years of experience with Gamelan music here at CC and abroad. Nama saya Sam, saya dari San Francisco. Saya meneliti dan bermain gamelan di Colorado dan Bali. Hello everyone, my name is Sam Yolles, and I'm so glad you're all here. Let's do the clicker. All right. I'm going to talk about a lot of things today, very concisely. I'm very excited to share with you all my process. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and positionality, crash course on Gamelan, my journey with Gamelan in various places, my inspiration in composing and my process, then teaching it, and a reflection on the impact this piece has. So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, very musically oriented. I used to tap along to the classical music in the back of my grandparents' car, and I would do tap dance lessons every week at a local studio with my friends. So in coming to CC and finding music, it was very innate. Let's listen to what Gamelan sounds like, in case you haven't heard. Snippet from the 30th anniversary concert a couple years ago. Now, Gamelan is originally from Indonesia and is spread throughout the region. It relies mostly on percussion instruments, though there are some like wind and string instruments like this flute. It has a very, very strong ties with culture and religion in Bali and also with dance. They're fairly inseparable as Gamelan pervades all aspects of life in Bali. And also important to know that it's taught orally by rote and by showing versus like Western staff notation where everyone gets their part individually and learns it themselves. And here are some Gamelan ensembles that I've seen in Bali. So a little bit about my journey. Pak Made Lasmawan, who has been teaching here for 30 years, came into my class my first week of school and taught us how to play gamelan, and I was immediately entranced by the playing style and the sounds and its connection with culture. So I went to his family's compound / sanggar / school in Bali for a block abroad, and
wow.
and that's where I found a deeper connection. I caught the gamelan bug, as we say, and got to meet people, make connections, and see gamelan like in its place. And I also just loved getting to rehearse with some of the guys in the sanggar with the men's group, and getting to play at a temple festival for the village, and I felt like really part of the community. And coming back to Colorado, I joined Gamelan Tunas Makar in Denver, a community orchestra, where I increased my skill and technique and playing ability, as well as making more connections and playing more and more formal performances and large performances, which is great. I went back to Bali to do more independent study and research on composition, where I continued to develop relationships with people I'd met the year before. And now I'm continuing with the group here at CC, Gamelan Tunjung Sari, where I now have a wealth of experience and can act more as a mentor and be able to share those experiences with people. So, why would I want to compose a gamelan piece? I only had like 1 or 2 years of experience at this point, so it was pretty early on in my career. But I wanted to get a deeper understanding of the culture and the music of Bali and of Gamelan to compose, I really needed to understand how all the parts were interrelated. I also wanted to express new musical ideas that I was just singing to myself all the time and playing, and also bring back and share stories and evoke feelings through the music into the CC community. As I said, I played with the men's group there, and I got really close with them, and here's just a little clip of us hanging out, and we didn't really speak the same language at this point, so we kind of communicated through music as an access point, through beatboxing and animal sounds. So that was a really fun moment. I love very dearly, and with the intention of composing, how could I possibly compose a piece? Being kind of an outsider into this culture and this music, something I'd never played or listened to before. I was back in Bali, and I was hanging out with the guys before we played a piece to open for a comedy set for a week-long cremation ceremony in the village over from Monday's village. Crazy, I know. And we were hanging out, and I was interviewing them, and I asked my friend Yoga, who was the first person beatboxing in the video, I asked him how he, in Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia, how he got into Gamelan, and he told me that we're studying Gamelan for the next generation, and that he wanted to study Gamelan with his father on his own volition. And I immediately understood the significance of him saying that, and especially how Gamelan is passed down through an oral tradition. So after trying to understand some comedy in Bahasa, I went to the compound the next day and started to take the way Yoga said generation and transform it into a melody. So I iterated it, and I iterated it, and I rewrote it again and again and again, till it sounded just right to my ears. I was able to compose ornamentation and more sections based off of the intention and direction of the number of the tones of the melody going forward. And I was able to use cipher notation and to compare the numbers of the notes on an instrument and compare it to numbers. So about a week in, I was able to teach a little bit of the piece to some of the younger guys in the Songar. So this is what it sounded like 2 years ago. In leaving Bali and coming to CC, proposed some challenges because I didn't own like a really expensive gamelan ensemble, and so I've been practicing being able to like sing ideas in my head and make voice memos and write them down, just like you heard me singing about. So I have been able to do that, and more recently I was able to record me doing all of the parts of the gamelan together, listen to that back, and play and add other sections to the piece, more based on the feeling and pulling on the wealth of experiences and pieces I've heard, rhythms that I'm used to, and expressing new melodic ideas. So that was more recently, and recently finished the composition and began teaching it to the Gamelan Tunjung Sari here, and here is what it sounded like earlier this week. a little teaser. You're going to have to come see the premiere next block to hear more of it. Now I'm going to talk about how I taught it and deconstruct a little bit of what you just heard. There is an Tunjung instrument that we play here at Tunjung Sari. It's 4 tones, typically used in cremation ceremonies. And I'm wearing more traditional wear with the wearing performance, a sarong and a Balinese hat, udon. And I have my shoes off to respect the spirit of the instrument. Here are the 4 tones that we use to play. So that can also be 1, 2, 3, 4, as I use my notation. So the first line of that section that I just played has multiple parts. It has a lower part played by the bigger instruments, and that part is where I took the word generation, so you can kind of hear it in the melody. And then the smaller instruments, like this one, are playing an interlocking ornamentation. So together, it sounds like this. Then we have the polos part, which is the straightforward part. And they're playing, I'm using rhythms that I've heard and also bringing in my own musical intuition. And then the songsi part, the second part that is more usually on the offbeat. So those are the parts that all fit together. And when I'm teaching, I do it just like that. I play it for everyone, and they follow me, and they watch, and they learn by repetition. In teaching, this is my first time doing music education. I reflected and compiled music education research and ways that I've appreciated learning from other teachers in my past, learning through rote and taking it a little chunk at a time or doing different repetitions. So I pulled that together and made lesson plans for each rehearsal. And then after each rehearsal, took time to journal and reflect on things I wanted to change with the piece since it's the first time and different ways I wanted to teach to everyone, while also soliciting feedback from members of the group to hear how they would like to be taught in the best way. And we've had 4 or 5 rehearsals so far to work on it, so very truncated amount of time. So I wanted to make sure it was the most efficient way possible, and they've done a really great job so far. All right, now the significance of my piece. My whole Capstone portfolio is centered around Gamelan, so I spent some time writing a paper on contributing to collaborative circles of composition, and so this piece, I named it Durén Nong Cret, which Durén is durian, a very stinky tropical fruit that is everywhere in Bali, and Madea has planted them, and yeah, that's a really fun thing. And then Nong Cret are the cicadas that come out at night. And me being from San Francisco, never heard them before. They're very loud, very annoying. And so I named this piece in this way as a way to evoke rame, which is a sense of boisterousness that pervades Bali in the sounds and the smells and like the visceral sensorial experience that's there is very strong. So the piece is helping to convey that. And at the end, we're playing our instruments that evoke directly what a cicada sounds like. So you'll have to come to the performance to hear what that sounds like. It's also my first full orchestration composition. So it leaves the door open for more pieces to make and more collaborations. My friend Dede, up here on the top right, he studies at the Art Institute in Bali, and he wants to collaborate on some pieces with me, which is very exciting. And me being from America, I have different experiences, and so my piece is going to sound very different than if someone wrote the same thing in Bali. So they can take inspiration from my piece, and then I'll listen to their pieces, and then there's kind of this trading back and forth. So across the whole Pacific Ocean. And thinking back on the past 4 years, I realized that I've cultivated a lot of relationships along the Front Range here in Colorado and across the Pacific Ocean. I've learned probably a dozen new instruments and skills, and I've been able to develop them over the past 4 years. I've had a lot of performance opportunities, which has been great, and I've gained a level of cultural understanding that is leaving me eager to explore more places and connect more deeply with people. And I now feel welcomed almost everywhere I go, since there are so many gamelan groups around the world. There's 150 in America alone, so it's great to have so much community everywhere. I'd first and foremost like to thank Mande Lasmoen, Pak, for all of his mentorship and inviting me to Bali and to play, and he always makes sure if I'm in the area, go to his house, and he just makes everything so welcoming, and I've learned so much from him and his family, as well as his wife, Kutut, who I've learned dance from, and along with other people that I've interviewed, and my advisors, and people who have contributed financially. Thank you so much, Suksumo. If you'd like more information, I have a website, the Story Map, I created after coming back from Bali the second time. I've compiled a bunch of reading materials if you'd like to learn more, and a YouTube playlist where you can listen to some more gamelan pieces. Thank you so much. I'm not sure where we are on time, but we can do a Q&A for about 10 minutes if you have questions for me about anything related to the presentation. You don't? Oh, James, yes.
Sorry. I'm interested in your thoughts about intuition. I was wondering if it's something you felt you need to cultivate and practice in itself. Because for me, it's a very natural thing, but for me, it's not like you don't have it or you don't have it. So I was wondering how you developed that over your gamelan experience.
Okay, thanks, James. Thoughts on intuition and gamelan playing? I agree it is something that's developed. I haven't done dedicated research to that subject. However, me being able to compose this piece is largely due from my wealth of experiences and pieces that I've performed and played and listened to and learned. I mean, probably 24 pieces that I've performed alone with different groups. And so I just listen to gamelan music on Spotify and YouTube for fun. So being able to hear music and create something from it is drawing on the time I've spent listening and engaging with the culture and being in Bali and being among people who play the music. So the skill, I don't know how to answer that, but I think what I'm drawing from is really important. I've sent this piece to my Balinese composer friends, and they're like, "Oh, it sounds Balinese." And the intuition took a while to build up. Does that answer your question? You know? Did you have something?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for this wonderful presentation. One of the things that I'm especially curious about is the ways in which the teaching of the piece is ingrained in the creative process. And I'm curious if you could maybe speak a little bit more on that. I know you're not done with the process of teaching the piece, and there's still more to come, but from what you've done so far, are there elements that kind of has been especially challenging or surprising to you in teaching the piece, and or ways in which the teaching of the piece indeed kind of changed the piece for you?
Thanks, you do. So talking about the relationship between teaching the piece and composing. That posed plenty of challenges. I really wanted to compose this piece as a way to give back and like contribute to the group and reciprocate, because Gamelan has given so much to me these past couple of years, and so I wrote this piece specifically for our group here. And people are only in the group for up to 4 years before they graduate, so the levels of experience vary a lot. So it was very challenging to manage writing all of my crazy ideas that I wanted to and writing something that is playable and something that is teachable. So I had to kind of synthesize that and make it so that parts weren't too fast or too complicated and fit into patterns that the people in the group had already heard, so that they're able to play along. And it went very swimmingly, just maybe like 1 or 2 days to teach one of the larger sections. So I think we were very successful in that. And it's been fun to like ask them, is this part like uncomfortable to you? Like, does this make sense to play? And really like tailoring it to the group, and hopefully it's something that we can continue playing after I graduate. And yeah, I taught the whole thing, and we're just like doing run-throughs until the final concert, which right now is slated for May 11th at 3 in Packard Hall for the maybe final Gamelan concert. Lisa.
I have a question in Bali with those who are composing. Is there such a thing as contemporary Gamelan music as opposed to more traditional? Are the styles and the sensibilities kind of evolving in the same way that Western classical music has different periods of time? Does Gamelan music have anything comparable like that?
Thanks, Lisa. Talking about different styles of Balinese music and contemporary versus traditional. I mean, this is a very old form that is very tied to religious aspects, and my piece is built on my wealth of experience playing and listening to more traditional types of gamelan. There are some composers. I was able to interview Dewa Alit, who is a famous contemporary gamelan composer. He made his own set of instruments. It sounds really cool, and it bridges contemporary with tradition. So there are kinds of splits. Like Made's son Ade, like really only composes in traditional forms, but his first son Putu is really into like heavy metal and does a lot of like experimental stuff with his life, which is really crazy. So there's a lot on there. The YouTube playlist will have some really cool contemporary and traditional musics that you can look more into. But it's a fascinating concept, and for this piece I wanted to stick with the things that I had heard and stay in that vein, since this is my first piece, and opening the door to possibly more experimental stuff, but always wanting to maintain the relationship between the music and the tradition. I think time for one more should be good. Luca?
Yeah, so I know you're not quite done with this project. But I'm curious what next is interesting you in your Gamelan composition.
Yeah, as Lucas said, we haven't premiered the piece yet, so it's still in the process, and looking forward to next steps. Not being at Colorado College next year, I'm not sure what form Gamelan will take in my life. There's a great group, Gamelan Sekajaya, in my parents' house, which I've been fortunate to attend a couple times over the past couple of years, so I definitely see joining an ensemble wherever I live in the future will be great. And music composition as an outlet for musical ideas and feelings will definitely take me far. I don't have any current plans, but in being able to send this piece to my friends in Bali, they're very excited and they want to work with me, so we'll see what kind of exchange of ideas and music will happen. So looking for the future. Feel free to keep tabs on me as we go along. Thank you so much. We will take about a 5-minute break. You can stretch your legs, and we'll have one more thing